with Sam Seder.
The destiny of America is always safer in the hands of the people than in the conference rooms of any elite.
Sam Seder.
They are unanimous in their hate for me, and I welcome their hatred.
We must guard against the acquisition of unwarranted influence, whether sought or unsought, by the military-industrial complex.
The Majority Report with Sam Seder.
If I get the feeling you've been cheated.
It is Tuesday, May 28th, 2024. My name is Sam Seder. This is the five-time award-winning Majority Report. We are broadcasting live steps from the industrially ravaged Gowanus Canal in the heartland of America, downtown Brooklyn, USA. On the program today, Luke Goldstein, writing fellow at the American Prospect, on LiveNation's monopoly in Red Lobster's gutting. Meanwhile, in the wake of the slaughter of dozens in refugee tents over the weekend, Israel tanks roll way past the Biden red line into Rafah Center. This, as new reports, Israel has been waging a 10-year secret war against the chief prosecutors at the International Criminal Court. Hunger spirals in Gaza as the U.S. aid pier operations halted. Multiple ships came unmoored. And in Israel, citizens set up attacks, or I should say step-up attacks, on aid trucks. In New York City, Trump's criminal trial closing arguments. Jury begins deliberating probably tomorrow. Meanwhile, over the weekend, Donald Trump mercilessly booed by libertarians who also pick a new nominee. I was not in attendance. UAW petitions the National Labor Relations Board to rerun the Mercedes vote. Washington Post reveals it had buried the Alito flag story for 3 years. 23 million Americans face loss of high-speed internet by the end of this week. And WHO members failed to settle on a treaty for pandemic preparedness. In Seattle, half the workers at the Luke Museum shut the museum down by a walkout over an exhibit equating anti-Zionism with anti-Semitism. And finally, rest in peace, Bill Walton.
Yes.
Former Celtic, amongst other teams. Deadhead, and a guy with some pretty good politics most of the time. All this and more on today's Majority Report. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. Thanks for joining us at the beginning of this already shortened week. It is already
Newsday Tuesday.
Newsday Tuesday. Thanks for joining us.
Lots of news today.
Lots of news today.
Over the long weekend.
Yes. Horrific images coming out of Gaza. Supposedly the Biden administration is at the moment contemplating whether Israel crossed its red line. I mean, I don't know if anybody can take that seriously. And also with new reports out that Israel has literally threatened the former chief prosecutor of the ICC. We'll talk more about this story. But you'll recall, I guess it was on Friday, when the ICC came out with its, was it Friday or Wednesday? I can't even remember now.
Sometime last
I think it was Wednesday. And we read a story to you that Israel had basically said that they wanted Karim Khan in as chief prosecutor. He was seen as being more reasonable with Israel And we now know through reporting in The Guardian and 972 Mag and Local Call, Israeli, we should say, publications, at least two of those, that Netanyahu, through the head of Mossad, literally threatened that Karim Khan's predecessor and her family. So we'll be talking more about this as we go forward. I mean, those are incredibly stunning stories. You can find one version in The Guardian, one in 972 Mag by co-written by Marone Rappaport, who we've had on this program a couple of times. Maybe we'll get him back for this one as well.
The quote was, you don't want to be getting into things that could compromise your security or that of your family.
And to be clear, he wasn't talking about taking them on some type of rock climbing trip or something. He's talking about the ongoing investigations into the way that Israelis were treating Palestinians. And we should make it clear, that was in 2021 or leading up to 2021. She's been gone, in other words, since 2021. Here is a clip of Aryan Naer. He's the co-founder of Human Rights Watch, among other things. His family, in part, died in Auschwitz. This was recorded, I believe. Certainly it aired on Sunday, so it's more than likely recorded who knows how many days before. But it was recorded before Israel, in what it deemed as a terrible accident, bombed a tent refugee camp.
Killed 45 people, and
much of Gaza is now a tented refugee camp.
And people may have seen the images that came out of that. I don't need to repeat them all, but obviously one of the most infamous ones was a toddler without a head.
Horrific images. After that accident, in quotes, Israel then killed another 15 people in a similar assault. They have rolled tanks into central Gaza now. But here is Rafah, excuse me. Here is Aryan Naer following up on his piece from, I think, a week or 2 weeks ago in the New York Times book review.
All the time you were head of Human Rights Watch, you, I think, only one time accused a country of genocide.
Yes.
Saddam Hussein's attempt to eliminate
Wait,
the
I'm sorry, can we start this at the beginning of the of just like when his first intro into this? I want to start at the intro. Yeah.
The International Court of Justice, a UN body also based in The Hague, said Friday that Israel must halt its offensive in Rafah, although its decisions are not binding, of course. That ruling was part of its ongoing hearing on whether Israel is guilty in its war on Hamas of genocide against the Palestinians. My guest is Aryan Naer. He is a giant in the world of human rights and a survivor of genocide himself. He was born a Jew in Nazi Germany. He and his parents escaped Berlin 2 weeks before the start of World War II. He went on to study at Cornell and then to co-found Human Rights Watch. He was at the forefront of the movement to establish the international tribunals, which eventually became the ICC and the ICJ. He's also the former head of the ACLU and the author of many books. He wrote a powerful piece in the New York Review of Books this month on the situation in Gaza. Thank you for joining us.
Very glad to do it.
Your name, Aryeh, is Hebrew.
It's a Hebrew name. It means lion.
Why did your parents give it to you?
Well, my parents were Zionists, and they wanted to give me a Hebrew name, even in Nazi Germany.
All the time you were head of Human Rights Watch, you, I think, only one time accused a country of genocide.
Yes.
Saddam Hussein's attempt to eliminate the Kurds.
The Kurds.
So when you say in this New York Review of Books piece that you have concluded that Israel is guilty of attempting genocide,
yes,
that's a very heavy charge.
Yes.
What is the principal reason you say that?
Well, first let me say that when the South African case charging genocide was initially brought, I was not one of those who endorsed South Africa's argument of genocide. I didn't endorse it because I thought Israel had a right to retaliate against Hamas, and I thought Israel had a right to try to incapacitate Hamas so that it would never be able to do anything like that again. But I was disturbed by some of the actions of Israel, by the use of very large weapons, 2,000-pound bombs, which are utterly inappropriate in a crowded urban area. A bomb like that can kill somebody 2 football fields away, and using bombs like that was inappropriate in the context of Gaza. But still, I didn't think that Israel was engaged in genocide just because of the effort to retaliate against Hamas, even though I thought Israel went far overboard in the way of its retaliation.
So what changed your mind then?
What changed my mind was that over a period of time, Israel has obstructed the delivery of humanitarian assistance to Gaza. And those who have been most severely victimized are not the members of Hamas. Men with guns ordinarily find a way to get food and to get fed. But it is young children who are most severely damaged by malnutrition and who will either starve to death, or if they survive, they will be diminished for the rest of their lives, diminished physically and psychologically by the severe malnutrition they are enduring as children. And I thought that severe obstruction of the delivery of humanitarian assistance amounted to genocide.
Okay. The Israeli case is...
I guess there'll be attempts by people to say that he is anti-Semitic.
Playing the long game. He left Germany as a refugee as a 2-year-old, Nazi Germany.
It's not even clear to me that he's anti-Zionist. And I don't think you have to be, you certainly don't have to be either one of those things to assess what Israel is doing. You don't need to have any type of ideological understanding or irrational hatred or anything to assess what's going on there. I mean, I don't know what it will take in terms of assessments for people who are engaged in this. I mean, the fact of the matter is that there's a significant majority of our population that really, at the end of the day, doesn't really care that much. But there's also a significant portion of our society who do care on both sides. But regardless of whether you perceive yourself as a Zionist or a supporter of Israel or whatever it is, the fact of the matter is that you can only ignore so many experts at this and ignore the facts that you're seeing with your own eyes.
We're at a critical moment, I think, for the world that we attempted to construct, even though it, of course, was constructed in the West's interests, right, as the victors, but in the post-World War II reality of a rules-based international order. It's been shattered, of course, but this is hopefully an opportunity to improve those systems and say, like, no, we're not just going to use this as a mechanism to go after people who don't align with the West and the global South. This is supposed to apply to everybody. And the Biden administration is doing immense damage, if not irreparable harm, to that project. And, like, just think about for a second, if we live in a reality where the United States isn't the global hegemon, this could happen to your kids. Does that change anything? Like, because without this kind of, these institutions in place, it's basically it's law of the jungle, right?
The only really way to honor Palestinians is making sure this doesn't happen again. And yeah, like Emma said, we're not helping to create a world where we stop this. We're attacking the ICC. I mean, hopefully something broke, and then we can now look at how Israel threatens these people with assassinations and stuff like that. But yeah, it is time for redemption, or it's time for them to break it all up. And I hope we redeem these systems and not, destroy them.
We'll put a link to that entire interview. It's worth noting because he addresses charges of anti-Semitism, et cetera, et cetera. But also, let's pop up this Piers Morgan thing. The other is, of course, and the amazing how knee-jerk the first response was that, oh, well, Hamas is firing rockets from these tents. But which, of course, Israel then later said, no, this was just an accident. A whoopsie for us. Hate to give any credit to Piers Morgan in these
well, we don't need to, right? We can just use it
but
to his change.
I mean, but he's got a very good point here. When the IRA were murdering people in England, we didn't drop 2,000-pound bombs on Belfast because the terrorists were living among civilians. I mean, it is it's perhaps maybe the closest you can get to an analogy that people living in the West, particularly Americans, could perhaps accept.
Yeah. Mutual recognition and negotiation was how that conflict was wound down. And that's the same solution we need in Israel-Palestine.
And let's be real, people in the West, if this was 2,000-pound bombs were being dropped on, I don't know, pick a European city that people like to have Aperol spritzes in and dine out. If that was happening and being decimated, like just a random fascist kind of country decided that they were going to just obliterate Switzerland, just everything about that life. I mean, that would not stand. It's just racism. And it's really depressing to see it laid so bare.
We'll talk more about this in the later in the show. In a moment, we're going to be talking to Luke Goldstein, writing fellow at the American Prospect, about both about the DOJ's suit of LiveNations over their monopoly practices and the gutting of Red Lobster, which is a story that we've heard many times before, not necessarily with Red Lobster, but fascinating the way these places are larded up with debt, and just the extraction that's going on is just stunning. First, a word from our sponsor today. Fast growing trees. This is the time, folks, to put your plants in the ground. You still have a couple of weeks, regardless of where you are, I think. That means if you want to plant some fruit trees, you want to plant some, palm trees, evergreens, now is the time to do it. And the best place to buy these, the easiest one, and the one that's going to give you the most options, Fast Growing Trees. It is the biggest online nursery in the U.S., has more than 10,000 different kinds of plants, over 2 million happy customers in the U.S. I am one of them. I was one well before we started advertising for them. So I love these type of situations. Doesn't matter what you're interested in terms of planting in your yard, or even if you're interested in just having a indoor, let's say, fig tree, which I am now growing. I mean, it's not a huge tree, but it's like a big bush. And I'm going to get some figs. I don't know if I'll get it this year because I got it, but soon. Fast Growing Trees makes it easy to order online, and your plants are shipped directly to your door within 1 to 2 days. They have a 30-day Alive and Thrive guarantee. So if anything goes wrong in the shipping or whatever it is, and you put it in the ground and it's not alive 30 days later, you can get a guarantee and a refund. But if it's alive in 30 days, you know that it's going to hold. You just got to keep watering it, obviously. I've planted tons of trees over the years with these guys, and have had now I'm going for the indoor fig tree. Maybe I'll bring in everybody a fig in the next year or two.
That would be
see.
that would be lovely.
But you can also grow lemon, avocado, all of trees in your home. The experts at Fast Growing Trees curate thousands of plants. You can find the perfect fit for your specific climate, your location, your needs. You don't have to drive around to nurseries and big gardening centers. Fast Growing Trees makes it easy to order online. Your plants are shipped to your door in 1 to 2 days. Again, it doesn't matter what you want to add to your yard, shade, privacy, fruit. Fast Growing Trees has in-house experts that can help you 24/7 make the right selection based upon like your climate and maybe your soil. You don't need a green thumb to do this, folks. It is not hard. The spring has best deals online, up to half off of select plants and other deals at Fast Growing Trees. And listeners to our show get an additional 15% off their first purchase when they use the code MAJORITY at checkout. That's an additional 15% off at fastgrowingtrees.com. Using the code MAJORITY at checkout, fastgrowingtrees.com. Code is MAJORITY. Offer valid for a limited time. Terms and conditions apply, so check it out now. Also, someone just said, oh, what a thoughtful gift. One wild fig. I don't know what that means. One whole fig. Folks, just a reminder, it's your support that makes this show possible. You can become a member by going to jointhemajorityreport.com. And also, now is the time to think about booking your cruise if you want to join me on the Nation Cruise. We got a link. What is it? nationcruise.com/MR. nationcruise.com/MR. Join me on the Nation Cruise in December. 7 days. We're going to go to I think stop in Jamaica and one or two other places. But there's going to be Jeet here's going to be there.
I believe you said Cozumel.
Cozumel.
Yeah, I'm looking at this looks nice.
Yeah, you don't have to look at that. I don't want you to get too upset. Quick break, and when we come back, Luke Goldstein will be joining us. We are back. Sam Seder, Emma Vigeland on the Majority Report on the... Well, I want to welcome back to the show Luke Goldstein. He is a writing fellow at the American Prospect with a couple of pieces, Luke, that we want to talk to you. Welcome back.
Hey, yeah. Thanks for having me back on.
Let's take them, I guess, in chronological order because I think it was last week. Department of Justice filed a lawsuit to break up LiveNation's monopoly over large parts of the live entertainment industry. It's not just the ticketing. They've sort of they've used that as leverage. I mean, it's almost, it's sort of a prima facie problem with what they're doing with their market power. But walk us through what the problem with LiveNation is.
Yeah. I think that's the right way to set this up. I hardly ever say this, but I actually think Jim Cramer at CNBC actually kind of nailed this. So this was just before.
Luke, it was great to talk to you. Thanks for joining us.
Okay, so
well, just hear me out.
Before you even go, is it because his daughter wanted tickets to Taylor Swift? I'm literally just going to take a stab in the dark and say that that's the reason he's behind this.
It's not far off. Yeah. So.
Okay.
Well, I'll get to that also, but this was right before the DOJ actually announced that they were filing a lawsuit, but there was already kind of reports it was going to happen. And, he goes on, Mad Money or whatever the show is. And he basically says, I always recommend to investors that you should buy LiveNation stock because they're, quote, the best gouger in the world. So it's pretty just out in the open. I think that's how most people understand what LiveNation and Ticketmaster together. That's a roll up. They merged in 2010. That's what they do. They really just kind of rip off, consumers because they control together over 80% of the ticketing services business. And there have been these huge flare-ups in recent years. There was the whole Taylor Swift debacle. There was also a Bruce Springsteen concert where tickets went up to like $5,000 or $6,000. Some of that is because they've implemented this dynamic pricing scheme where when there's peak demand, they just jack prices up through an algorithm as high as they can go. Some of that's because they incentivize resale tickets because they get a cut of that also once the prices go higher. So that's what most people associate LiveNation with now. But ticketing services is, as you said, Sam, just one aspect of their business. It's really kind of just the foot in the door for them to roll up the whole live entertainment industry, which includes concert promotion, it's advertising, it's artist management as well, and just direct venue operations like concessions and parking tickets and such. And what they do is they bundle these services together. So if any other players in the business don't want to use that full suite of products, they just cut them out entirely from their ecosystem. And, I mentioned they have 80% of ticket sales, probably their most dominant market position, but they basically have rolled up now most of the major amphitheaters across the US, some worldwide as well. So if you're an artist and you refuse to deal with LiveNation as well, they'll just cut you out from their infrastructure ecosystem, essentially, for if you're going on tour and everything. And, a lot of these kinds of arguments have been made already about LiveNation. What the lawsuit lays out is in very vivid detail how they actually retaliate against any of these players who, basically don't want to play ball with them and, sort of like a mob style.
So the lawsuit lays out both, and we should say there's sort of like, I guess there's both a monopsony here and a monopoly, right? And depending on how you perceive the talent as to being buyer or seller or whatnot. But the point is they're doing it on both ends. They're doing it with the venues and saying like, well, if you don't want us to handle your food services and your promotion and this and that, then we're just not going to give you the ticket sales. And who's out there? Are you going to sell these through your own like little, like a event website or something? And then it's the same with the performer. What of their argument that, well, we're jacking up the prices on the tickets, and put aside for a second how they're using their monopoly in ticket sales to leverage and squeeze out competitors on other sort of services provided. What about their argument that we these proceeds of the tickets go to the artists? It's the way that the artists get more money.
Yeah, I mean, there's some vague sort of negotiation that goes on. I mean, the artist will set basically like a floor for what they want prices to be. The thing is that when you're looking at prices on their site, that's not actually what the final prices really are. As most people have probably experienced, you go through the checkout process, and then there are all these various fees that Ticketmaster can, add on for final sale. There's processing fees, there's servicing fees, a bunch of other kind of random ones they throw in there, and they get the major cut essentially of most of those fees for the final sale. So the artists don't really see a lot of that. And again, if an artist wants to go to a rival ticketing company that's much smaller, granted StubHub or SeatGeek or something, what LiveNation will do is just say, okay, well, you can't use the major venues that we operate and that we have exclusive deals with. And they're actually willing, as the lawsuit has laid out here, they're willing during peak seasons, like in the summer, to let their venues be completely vacant and lose out on the profits they might be able to make, just so that they can, basically enforce, their monopoly power here and make sure that everyone plays ball.
Well, what's the threshold that you get to call something a fee as opposed to it's just the price of what we're charging? I mean, like, I should say, the way we've structured the Majority Report, you can support the show monthly for 50 cents, and there's $9.50 of fees that we have, it's fees. So it doesn't count. Like, I don't understand. Like, how do you get away with that?
Yeah, well, I mean, you get away with it because there aren't really other options that you can go to. So it's not just that Live Nation. I mean, I don't know about your guys' case. I know there's some very lucrative consultants who help figure out what the calculation for fees are at the big companies, at least.
Of course, we hire all of them.
We must have the same consultants.
Yeah, same consultants.
You got to compete. Yeah. So what Live Nation does, though, is they push venues to sign just exclusive contracts with them so that no other ticketing service is allowed. So, theoretically, like, they could have really high fees, but if you can just go to SeatGeek to get a ticket for the same concert at the same venue at that time, then, you might look at their prices, right? And say, okay, that's a better deal. But Ticketmaster has, very, kind of flagrantly tried to kind of block that out. And there have been just another number of instances that are laid out in that lawsuit where this has happened to, I think, a pretty egregious level.
Does the DOJ suggest a remedy? Like, what is the remedy in this situation?
Well, they're actually seeking to break up Live Nation. So this is actually probably a good opportunity to explain a little bit of the backstory here. Sometimes it's civil penalties. In this case, it's actually, I think, pretty clear cut that Live Nation just shouldn't be able to control all these various lines of business. They can be a ticketing service. They can be a concert promoter, which is what Live Nation originally was. They weren't really in the ticketing game. That was Ticketmaster. What happened is in 2010, Live Nation, Ticketmaster, different companies, and they were on opposite ends of a lot of transactions. Live Nation would have to deal with Ticketmaster to decide the recruitment for their artists and venues and such. And, they were kind of, they were at odds on a lot of these deals, as you're kind of supposed to be, right? And Live Nation then set up kind of like a front ticketing service that started to take off just to piss off Ticketmaster and try and compete. And then the two basically came to this detente agreement where they said, this would actually be a lot better for both of us if we just merged together. So their various owners, kind of drew up this merger. And the Obama administration in 2010 had a very different attitude about antitrust enforcement than the Biden administration. And they, essentially cleared it through. I'll add that Aryan Naer, the, famous Hollywood agent, was an investor in Live Nation at the time. Rahm Emanuel, his brother, was the chief of staff for Obama. So that might have played a role. But the lawsuit that the Biden administration...
Rahm Emanuel, no. Hard to believe that he would have been such an enormous scumbag.
Piece of garbage?
Yeah, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
It's out of character, I know, but...
Totally.
You have to consider all the possibilities. So basically, the Biden administration's lawsuit is just kind of trying to rectify, that mistake. There was a consent decree that they added onto it that said, like, please play nice, don't retaliate. And then they very clearly violated the consent decree, so much so that the Trump administration's DOJ actually had to get involved in 2019, launched an investigation.
Okay,
that didn't work.
So the DOJ wants to break it up horizontally, right? You can't own the ticketing and then also own the promotion and all the across the board, because you're leveraging the ticketing and forcing other people. But what about breaking up the ticketing? Like, why do I have to? Why should there be exclusive? What's the value to society that there are exclusive ticketing contracts?
No, I think it just simplifies the process for, probably, I think really just for Live Nation. They very clearly have coerced venues into doing this. So yeah, you're right. That would be part of the remedy as well, probably, is just to maybe flat out, ban these kinds of exclusive deals. But again, the way that they're able to force these agreements is because they control these other lines of business. So they say, if you don't sign this exclusive deal, you can't access our artists.
Right. And so in other words, if I'm a competitor, like I want to start my own Ticketmaster, and I realize that Live Nation does not have the ability to essentially shut down an artist or a venue for the rest of their tour or for this particular show, based upon their ticket the monopoly, then I might enter into that ticket game, because they have no advantage over me now, because their fees are exorbitant.
Right. That's exactly right. And again, this is not hypothetical. There's several cases that are laid out in the DOJ lawsuit. They have obtained internal communications revealing as much. There's another really kind of crazy situation where there was a rival, not just this extends beyond ticketing, there was a rival artist management company called TEG, and TEG wanted their artists to play a tour at the LA Coliseum, which is supposed to have an exclusive deal with LiveNation. And TEG said they would only let their artists play there if they used, I believe it was StubHub. And LiveNation completely freaked out. And they said, because they controlled the venue operations, including like door management, they said, if anyone shows up with a StubHub ticket, we're not letting them in. So eventually StubHub had to cave and say, okay, we will, they basically structured a deal that would have mostly favored Ticketmaster. And then LiveNation didn't stop there. They went to the private equity firm, Silver Lake, that owns this company TEG. And they have a sort of, there's a whole other story here, but they have an arrangement with another company that Silver Lake owns. And they told Silver Lake, you have to basically divest from this company TEG if you want to be on good terms with us. And now they essentially are looking to offload their shares in this company TEG.
I mean, does StubHub even sell tickets that are bought directly, I guess, from the artist or whatever? Because my assessment of things is that Ticketmaster and LiveNation have so monopolized the market that, StubHub's basically a secondary ticket reseller, but that benefits Ticketmaster, LiveNation in and of itself.
Right. Yeah. It definitely depends. I know StubHub has been part of a coalition, that's sort of been, crying foul about a lot of LiveNation's practices. So they definitely have a vested interest there. I think they have been relegated to resale to a certain extent. Other resellers, though, LiveNation through Ticketmaster will actually incentivize to engage in resales because they also are able to basically get, a cut when the prices just keep getting higher. Exactly.
Yeah. All right, Luke, let's move to this other story, the rating of Red Lobster. It has a lot of Toys R Us vibes to it. The Toys R Us used to be a toy store. People may not remember this. And it's this whole sort of like a leverage buyout, I guess, where they come in and find creative ways. And I don't even know how this works. I mean, but they come in, they finance the purchase of a company with the company's own assets that they have, or anticipate selling off or borrowing against. I don't understand how this works other than probably everybody who signs off on it gets rich and then everybody else gets screwed.
Yeah, essentially. I mean, that's what I learned about the case of Red Lobster, which I think is, it's a paradigmatic example of how this really works out. Some of the timeline here is important. So let me just first say that what happened a month ago when it was first announced that Red Lobster was in, total financial turmoil, was going to file for bankruptcy imminently, there started to be all these stories that were planted that the only reason the company was going down was because they had basically engaged in this weird promotion scheme called Endless Shrimp. And this really took off.
It's an all-you-can-eat shrimp situation. Yeah,
exactly, for $20. And I have to say, I guess, granted, it was pretty effective business propaganda that seems pretty clear the management of Red Lobster put out because it took off like wildfire.
It reminds me of the Target store closures, which were it's all because of crime. And then you start to realize no, it's just that you chose the wrong locations for these Target stores and you want to cover your ass with your board of directors, essentially.
Yeah. Another parallel even more directly is that when Olive Garden had a debt restructuring in the early 2010s, they also in part blamed the
all-you-can-eat breadsticks.
Yeah, all-you-can-eat breadsticks. Yeah, and that was actually when Olive Garden was owned by the restaurant company Darden, which was the previous owner of Red Lobster as well. And there's a whole backstory to get into. But yeah, essentially, look, I mean, Red Lobster filed for bankruptcy. All their filings are now public, and we can just actually see the receipts. And it's very clearly not the Endless Shrimp deal, which led to about 11 million in losses as they calculate it, which is, it's just kind of minuscule. I mean, as we calculate it at the Prospect, Red Lobster has actually paid almost as much to the law firms that are representing them for billing, in the bankruptcy proceedings. They've almost paid as much as the losses for Endless Shrimp. What's really going on is the private equity story here, their previous owners.
Yeah, let's talk about that, because this dynamic where private equity comes in and structures a deal where they basically will extract the assets or put the assets in jeopardy or lard up the company with debt as a mechanism in which to purchase it in the first place. It's basically just, this is total vampire stuff. Will you just walk us through what happened in this case and how it's not too dissimilar than one of these sort of typical, lard up the place in debt? In this instance, they just did it through the real estate.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a great example. And also, I'll say that it's the purchase and then also running the company in the ground, so it has to go into bankruptcy, where there's another kind of highway robbery that takes place here. But yeah, to start from the beginning. So, through a leverage buyout, what a private equity firm does is they basically lend money to purchase the company, and then the debt is placed on that company's balance sheet. So they're making the debt payments with interest, all the while the private equity company is basically just extracting profits through dividend payments, stock share buybacks, you name it. So what happened here with Red Lobster is they bought the company for Golden Gate Capital is the private equity firm. And they have a history of running the same playbook for other companies. One was a retail shoe company called Payless, which was a big story a couple of years ago. Same pattern. So they buy Red Lobster for $2.1 billion, and in the purchase, they sold off all of Red Lobster's real estate, which is their top asset. And they sold it to some third-party real estate investment company that Red Lobster's, all their locations are now on the hook for as a permanent leaser. That's a huge added cost. And that sale for the real estate was $1.5 billion, almost made up completely what Golden Gate Capital, kind of had to pay to buy the company in the first place. So they just get a quick injection of cash right from the get-go. Some of it goes to limited partners who are involved in it, but most of that was going to the managers at Golden Gate Capital. And, from there, what we also have found from the bankruptcy filings that have already been put into the docket is Red Lobster was paying well above market rate for those leases. Like, commercial real estate has, gone up across the country, but Red Lobster was getting especially screwed by this third-party real estate company that the private equity firm sold all the land to. And they're just hampered with, all this piling debt from those leases. And then again, Golden Gate Capital, per the private equity playbook, tries to slash costs at every turn. Those Red Lobster locations have been pretty permanently understaffed for a number of years. That's, one function. And, they just extracted these massive dividends. And then either private equity will then go into bankruptcy proceedings where some of that debt can be forgiven, or they just sell it off. And in this case, that's what Golden Gate Capital did. They just sold it to Thai Union Group, which is actually the major supplier of seafood for Red Lobster restaurants, which is a whole separate side of my story.
How third party is that real estate group?
I think we're going to find out more about that in the bankruptcy proceedings. It's not entirely clear based on the reporting so far. What I can add also is there's a whole kind of like vampire squid type arrangement of Wall Street firms here. There's also another private equity firm that was the major lender to Red Lobster during an initial debt restructuring in 2021. It's not a bankruptcy quite, but that's the first indication that Red Lobster was really in trouble. That private equity firm is now in play and is the leading candidate to actually take over the company coming out of these bankruptcy proceedings, and we'll likely just, go through this whole cycle over again. There's just more plundering of Red Lobster that can be extracted.
And in the meantime, it's the workers who suffer.
Yeah, that's right. That's one of the main casualties, really, of these kinds of Chapter 11 bankruptcy proceedings. It's not just that once a company is loaded up with debt from their private equity owners, it's not just that some of their debt can be, restructured, essentially forgiven, unpaid bills, but also they can slash wages for workers, and they can also cut payments into the pension funds that they're supposed to be paying into for workers. So that's become a very common tactic, and that's something I think everyone's going to be looking out for in these bankruptcy proceedings for Red Lobster.
Luke Goldstein, writing fellow at the American Prospect, thanks so much for catching us up on both these stories. We'll link to both the pieces that you wrote about this. You can see the other part of this Red Lobster story, which involves sort of the incestuous relationship it has with its shrimp providers. It's an all-you-can-eat shrimp type of situation. So, or was. I like shrimp.
No, I know, but incestuous
Luke, thanks
shrimp
so much.
doesn't sound great. Go on.
Yeah, maybe I could have worded it better. Luke, appreciate the time.
Yeah, thanks so much.
Thanks, Luke.
All right, folks, before we head into the fun half of the program, let's talk about some of the unfun stuff this weekend. I just, again, the Biden administration, I mean, this is a long time ago. I'm pretty old, but almost probably 2 or 3 weeks ago had said red line Rafah, major offensive. And tanks are rolling into the center of Rafah. They are they're bombing essentially the supposed safe zones. They're continue to inhibit aid getting to folks in Gaza. New reports of the settlers and other Israelis within Israel attempting to block aid coming into Gaza. Here is Rashida Tlaib yesterday
or Sunday.
in Detroit. Sunday in Detroit at the People's Conference for Palestine. Here she is.
International Court of Justice just ruled that the Israeli government must stop its invasion of Rafah. But President Biden says what's happening in Gaza is not a genocide. Where's your red line, President Biden? This is not even consistent with his own views on international law in the past, where he sit there and called and said Putin must be held accountable at the ICC. But he shields the murderous war criminal Netanyahu and the Israeli government official. They are asking us not to believe our own eyes. Each year, our country, and I say our country because it is our country, sends billions of dollars to maintain an apartheid government and support the ongoing ethnic cleansing of Palestinians. You all, every single bullet, every single gun, every single weapon, bombs that we send is a sacrifice of our own schools here at home. Many of which, when I go into the schools, have garbage bags over their drinking fountains because they don't have clean water. Every single bomb and bullet and weapons we send to genocide is less money to house the unhoused. When many of the veterans we send to support endless wars based on lies come back literally needing health care and nowhere to go, but we'll send weapons like this for genocide.
That's Rashida Tlaib. And, well, we're so far past the Biden red line, and supposedly they are now in the process of deliberation. If anybody wants to place any bets on how that comes out.
What's there to deliberate?
They've got to deliberate. They've got to look at Where did the line go from? What color is it? Was it really red? There's a whole lot of things. Incidentally, we should also say they've already rejected the ICC's warrant process, I guess, at this point. Because somehow there's some secret information that the Biden administration must have that no one else has.
Well, I mean, we're just wondering when it breaks, but we thought maybe it would change after the Flower Massacre, after Hind Rajab was recorded, crying out for help and then was killed by an Israeli strike, 6-year-old, or now we're seeing again the image that I think a lot of us can't get out of our minds of the toddler without a head being held up desperately by somebody to show what actually is happening. And also there are images of charred children burned to death in this latest strike. So there were also just conflicting reports on the red line as it related to Rafah in the lead up to this, which I think was on purpose to give the Biden administration
they
wiggle
immediately waffled. It can't go to the central, like the most
major military operation, which it's like what, and they started striking Rafah immediately after the ICC
immediately. We couldn't even headline it on the show before saying actually they're still bombing Rafah.
Issued the warrants. So the point is just that. Do bombings not constitute a major military operation? Because they crossed it as soon as the ICC handed out those warrants, if that's the case. And I don't think that's the case. I think that they said basically ground troops. But bombing a refugee camp where hundreds of thousands of people are sheltering is not the red line of the Biden administration at this point. It's only if ground troops go in. But even that's squishy.
Well, we have tanks going in now. So
yeah, no, there's nothing.
Here is a clip of Fiona Lawley. I don't know anything about her, actually. I don't even know anything about the host.
This is the first time seeing her.
James Wally. Is it Wally or Will?
I think it's Will. Does he deserve the respect?
This is in...
James Whale? Okay.
It's British TV. Talk TV. And just interesting to see what other countries that are equally engaged in as much delusion as we are. And there's less and less, incidentally. Fewer and fewer of those countries, how they're responding to this. Here it is.
But what would you have done about Adolf Hitler? What would you have done about that situation?
I could tell you what communists were doing. Communists were fighting as much as they could to stop the rise of Hitler in Germany at that time. But you don't want to have a serious
conversation.
You don't want to have a serious question
with you
about
because
fascism.
everything
What you're
you've
interested in doing is defending Israel.
Stalin and Hitler invaded Poland together. Stalin sided with him. You don't know history,
Ash, she doesn't.
Stalin
young.
was with Hitler before.
But you absolutely think that if Israel will put down their weapons tomorrow and just walk away, you think Hamas would leave it?
I think that in order for there to be genuine peace across that whole region, we need to end capitalism, end imperialism, which is the driving force for all of the problems that are taking place there.
Do you have a job?
I work for the Revolutionary Communist Party, and I organise people, I organise young people, and
do you know what you're doing,
who want
don't
to
you?
see
Can I be
an
quite
end
honest?
to genocide.
You are going...
You're not going to be honest.
I'm being... Everything I say
She's
is
a mind
honest.
reader, remember? She can read a mind.
Everything you're doing is going to cause major conflict in this country.
I am not responsible for any conflict.
Like you,
the British government,
and who are promoting
which is supporting and facilitating a genocide right now, are responsible for conflict because it's true.
Why don't you want to live in a communist country?
Why don't you want to live in a communist? There is no communist country for me to go.
Hang on, just a minute. If you don't like living in this country, which obviously you don't, why don't you go and live somewhere where it's better than Britain? You've slagged us all.
Love it or leave it.
Because obviously you don't like this country.
Because I can. Why would I live somewhere else when I can change the country that I live in?
You can't change this country.
Okay.
You won't change it.
Well, let's wait and see. Because the truth is, there are so many
we are getting back to how we used to be.
The defining feature of politics in this country is that young people hate the political establishment. They hate the status quo.
I have been young.
It's not all about young people. Why do you think young people have more of a say?
It's not just young people. The majority.
Pause it for 1 second. Are these two guys like? Is there one person behind like that screen who's got his hand up the backs of these two guys?
Right.
Honestly, it's just one of the most bizarre
imagery.
Are they holding hands underneath the table?
The format here is just like, we're gonna both gang up on her. I mean, it's just such a weird.
They're there for each other's moral support.
Exactly right. I need my buddy. I need my buddy to go to yell at this young woman, because that's, first of all, you've talked about how Janine Garofalo would get onto Fox News.
Oh yeah, this same dynamic.
Well, this is Talk TV. This is a Murdoch channel. Okay. So like, this is exactly, they're the old guys watching this in the UK are getting off on the idea of not just a young woman of color getting just basically talked down to, like, what do you work? Do you even work? Do you even have a job? What's your job?
Do you think, I mean, don't you think obviously not, but I would, if they spend 5 minutes after the show, like, let me just roll back that clip and be like, hey, does it seem awkward that we need both of us is also sitting right on top of each other as a way of like trying to push back on this? Like, doesn't it seem awkward to you? Am I the only one, guys?
One of these guys, whichever one is James Whale.
Oh no, James! It looks wonderful.
I don't know who the other guy is, but he has a MBE, a member of the British Empire, or something like that, which is the second, like the rung below a knighthood for being a shock jock. So it's very serious.
Oh well, Limbaugh won the biggest award, medal that the president could give. So we're in good company.
They hate the status
I have been young.
It's not all about young people. Why do you think young people have more of a say?
It's not just young people. The majority
you think young people are more important.
The majority of
people don't agree with you.
The majority of people in Britain don't support what the government is doing in Gaza.
By the way?
They don't support.
If you had a sensible and serious face, I'd take you more seriously. But you smile, and you're doing it now throughout what I think is one of the most dangerous times. I think we are on the verge of the Third World War. Right. And I don't consider people like you will be of any use whatsoever, because you get called up to go to the forces, you won't go, will you?
I don't think we're on the verge of the Third World War.
Well, I think we are, particularly with people who are behaving in the way you are. But it's funny, is it? It's funny. Do you know how many people get killed in a world war?
Oh, so you do care about people dying.
I said that at the beginning.
But you're
I care about.
You're a hypocrite. If you cared about people dying, thousands of people are dying today in Sudan.
There you go, ladies and gentlemen.
Break.
That is amazing.
Oh God! And she was real. I mean,
you're laughing. It's the Third World War, and you're laughing.
It's because because they were insane clowns. I mean, I've never seen something like that. Two grown men who needed their emotional support friend to go and yell at a young lady.
Israel's lobbing bombs at other countries like diplomatic buildings, and she's responsible for not taking World War III seriously.
I honestly thought we were watching that clip because it was the world's two oldest-looking babies.
Yes, you're right.
They're Benjamin Buttons.
Exactly.
Get to break now.
Benjamin Button broadcasting the new BBBC.
Hey, what happened to the free exchange of ideas? They don't want to hear her out there?
One's going, I was young once. What's so great about being young? Yes, what is so great about being young? Oh, that's what I said. Okay, she's smiling, laughing. Why?
I was young once. I had an affair in the 90s.
I think someone said in the YouTube chat, but they also sort of resemble like Statler and Waldorf, the
guys in the Muppets.
Yeah.
100%.
I was thinking of the two egg guys from Alice in Wonderland, but whatever.
Tweedledee and Tweedledee.
Oh, interesting. In 1997, Whale's 18-month affair with a listener of his radio show was made public. So just catching up with this guy.
Oh, I've had affairs before.
The fact that they brought up communism at the beginning, like, and said she doesn't know history. I know, but right. Hitler persecuted and massacred leftists
the liberals,
within Germany, right? I mean, that was a big part of it.
That made way for him, yeah.
If you want to talk about like communist resistance to the rise of Nazi Germany, the Soviet Union lost more people than any other country fighting Hitler. But
yes.
So what, 20 million people or something like that.
Can we just go to the last moment where he has to say break now 7 times?
He's pointing right to the camera.
It's so tough for him to get to that point. I mean, it's pretty hilarious. He's trying to sort of like, Bigfoot her, and he just looks more ineffectual. I gotta feel like I'm missing something culturally on this, because I don't live in a universe where these two guys could look at each other, after the episode and go like,
we did a good job.
That went well.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Right.
With people who are behaving in the way you are.
Funny.
But it's
funny,
funny,
very
is it?
funny.
It's
It's
funny.
funny.
Do you know how many people get killed in a world war.
Oh, so you
I know
do
you're
care about people.
I said that
not
at the beginning.
But you
I care about.
You're a hypocrite. If you cared about
Break
people
now.
dying,
Break
if you cared
now.
about people
Break
dying, thousands of people
now.
are dying today
Break.
in Sudan.
Break. I'm going to say it 12 times.
You know what though?
Wow.
The reason that you don't think that they came out looking good is because you don't see the inherent value of yelling at a woman of color. I mean, that's like the primary objective. They could just be yelling like in a different foreign language, and the rest of the audience would be like, I want all of this. That's what they get off. Like the fact that she's a leftist too.
Having them both there, though, it just looks so.
It just so looks
pathetic.
so pathetic. That's the thing.
To normal people.
Listen,
It looks like they aren't even talking to her. It looks like they're playing a video of her and then sort of like muttering underneath it, like they're annoyed by what she's saying.
and the thing is, they're responding to each other that in such a weird way. Like she's smiling. You're smiling. Is she smiling? Yeah, she's laughing. Why it's so funny about this? It's just so weird.
It's so weird. I mean, look, sometimes right-wingers, when they have a woman on who they're a little afraid of, they usually bring in someone else, like sometimes just as a sidekick in case they need a backup option when you're having a debate with somebody.
Yeah, exactly, yeah.
It's like an image. I can't wait for Tim Pool to gain a little bit of weight and just turn into that guy with the...
there was a bald guy and a guy with a lot of hair, so Tim needs a guy without a hat next to him.
Right.
Like Moonlord. He's got long hair.
Folks, I'm going to head into the fun half. A little taste of what we do in the fun half. As we play videos.
Go to break.
People break! Break! I'm talking to you. Break!
I'm having a panic attack.
Exactly. Folks, it's your support that makes this show possible. You can become a member at jointhemajorityreport.com. When you do, you not only get the free show free of commercials, you get the fun half as well. Check out justcoffee.coop, fair trade coffee tea. Someone did make the point last week that it'd be easier maybe just to get Just Coffee to reintroduce tea and hot chocolate. But fair trade coffee and hot chocolate. You can get the Majority Report blend. Use the coupon code Majority, get 10% off. Check out the AM Quickie. 3 times a week, it is free for you to get top stories in your email box every morning, 9 a.m. sharp. And again, if you have any interest in heading on a cruise and seeing what it looks like when I am like in cruise mode on a boat.
Where he's eating this time.
Yeah, exactly. Nation cruise. That's going to be the problem. I got to try and stay. nationcruise.com/MR. Check it out. Emma.
On ESPN, we will obviously be talking about the Celtics sweeping their incredible path to the finals. We'll talk about what's going on in the West as well for both the NHL and the NBA. I know.
Oh, I'm sorry. Did I hit the fanfare?
A little bit too soon.
It's all right.
But the fact that you guys were able to do that while resting Porzingis is, I mean, I can't really remember another easier path to a finals that.
Look in the Eastern Conference historically. There's probably been a few.
No, I mean, no, but like, okay, Giannis going out, then Dame going out, so the Pacers advance. The Knicks getting completely hobbled, so the Pacers advance. Then Halliburton getting injured, and they get to play him.
Hope they're ready.
We'll see. All right. Anyway,
Well, I appreciate you saying you guys.
Yes.
Because I feel like I finally am getting some of the recognition I deserve.
You do. You are.
For that stuff.
Anyway, we'll talk about all that. YouTube.com/ESPN show today.
Tonight, Left Reckoning, Chip Gibbons of Defending Rights and Dissent, which is the Matt Leck approved free speech organization, unlike the PEN America and a lot of these other organizations, which are being a little bit weak in the moment. Talking about Assange. Also, Liza Featherstone has an interesting article about AstroTurf and how it's basically a big neoliberal boondoggle, and we just need to go back to what they took from us, which is good old-fashioned grass fields, folks. Patreon.com/leftreckoning to get access to the postgame.
See you in the fun half.
You are in for it.
All right, folks. 646-257-3920. See you in the fun half.
Are you ready?
Who sent us this?
Alpha males are back. Boys back. And the alpha males are back.
Just as delicious as you could imagine.
The alpha males are back. Boys back. And the alpha males are back.
Just want to degrade the white man.
Alpha males are back.
I take all of it in my throat.
Alpha males are back.
Snowflake says what?
The alpha males are back.
You are a madman.
And the alpha males are back.
Oh no, Sam Seder! What a fucking nightmare!
Bring back DJ Danner.
Yeah, or a couple of them. Just put them in rotation.
DJ Danner.
Well, the problem with those is they're like 45 seconds long, so I don't know if they're enough of a break.
That's fucking nonsense. You see white people doing drugs, they look worse than normal white people, and all white people look disgusting.
And the alpha males...
Psych. Fuck them.
Snowflake says what? Snowflake says what?
A hell of a lot of bank. A hell of a lot of bank. A hell of a lot of bank. Okay, I'm making stupid money. Hell of a lot of bank. A hell of a lot of bank.
All lives matter. Have you tried doing an impression on a college campus?
I think that there's no reason why reasonable people across the divide can't all agree with this. Psych.
And the alpha males are back. And the Africans are black African. And the alpha males are black. And the Africans are back.
When you see Donald Trump out there, doesn't a little part of you think that America deserves to be taken over by jihadists? Keeping it 100. Can't knock the hustle. Come on! Fuck 'em. Things I do for the bigger game plan. By the way, it's my birthday! Happy birthday to me, Jew boy!
I have a thought experiment for you.
And the alpha males are back. Africans are black. Alpha males are black. Africans are back.
Come on! Come on! Someone needs to pay the price for blasphemy around here.
I am a total pussy.
Yes, ladies and gentlemen, this is the sound that the phones are on. Not for you yet, though. We'll get the phones on in just a bit. We got a little bit more to cover here, and then I will open up the phones, and I will tell you. The number is 646-257-3920. I'd like to hear from some new callers if you're out there. And listen, if you're watching us on Rumble, first off, we appreciate the great reviews we've been getting on Rumble.